Hello everybody, good evening. I'm Cosmic Claire, and Happy New Year 2014. And may I also say to all those Old Norse buffs out there who know that it happens to be Professor Tolkien's birthday today, may I just raise a toast to the Professor before the evening is out. The Professor. Anyway, so that's out of the way. I must apologise to those very kind people who gave me so much encouragement with these video blogs last year. You know who you are, and thank you very much for the support. Unfortunately, you haven't seen me since September because I've had an injury on my shoulder and my arm, which has caused me a lot of pain using computers. And I'm a little bit improved on that department now. And so I thought the new year and the dear Professor's birthday would be a good opportunity to revive my efforts in this department. I was also quite inspired by the new year, various astrological readings, well, particularly a chap called David Palmer gave a very inspiring one, pointing out the challenges we have at the moment, not so much the individual challenges out there in the world, but the fact that it is such a challenging situation that we're in at the moment. The planet and its population seem to be beset from many sides by a series of human-invented problems. And as you probably know, if you've seen me before, you will know that I've been also involved with the campaign against this trolleybus scheme that they want to impose on us. And what it strikes me as is that there are several levels going on in this. The two main ones that come to my mind are obviously the external challenges that we have to deal in facing people who want to destroy our environments and poison it and pollute it with roads and fracking and a lot of stuff that is really more damaging than anything else. But there's also an inner struggle associated with this, and I think in many ways this is kind of the most interesting side of it, because this what you see in the world at the moment seems to be that there is a much greater increase in questioning the system than we have known for a very long time, if ever at all. And there has been quite a continuous arc developing from early 2011 and to the present time. In fact, this obviously has quite, roots that go back quite a number of years. And I remember around about 2000 there was an anti-globalization demonstration. Outside of it was probably Genoa or somewhere. All the usual suspects were there, G8, whatever. And I remember a commentator saying that there was a lot of opposition to this kind of globalization agenda, but there it didn't seem to have found its form. It hadn't quite coalesced into a recognizable movement. It was too amorphous, too directionless. It was more just against it than really having its own identity to offers an alternative. And I think that over the last 3 years, we have seen a definite trend in world geopolitical awareness. And I know that these have all been attempted to be infiltrated by governments, and they have been to some extent. You had the the Arab Spring, Egypt, that was all subverted, infiltrated and stuff. Then there was the Occupy movement, and that was I always thought that was more of a, I think, what's the term, a bellwether. The cresting white froth that you get on the top of a wave, which you can see from a long way off. But that froth in itself has very little power in it. It's just that it's highly visible, and then you can see it from a long way coming off, which is why the Occupy movement was the first kind of manifestation, I suppose, of this stuff in the West. But then what's really important is that as the white horse starts crashing down over you, it's the massive weight of the wave, the solidity, the substance of the wave that follows on behind. So really the things that we've seen so far, I think, are only indicators, warning signs, warm-ups, and looking back on the 2012 thing, it became fairly clear to me at the time that that was a kind of focusing moment to see what the obstacles, the challenges, what the job to be done was, what the rules of the game were, what we were up against, what the job was, to deal with the criminal network which has kind of taken over the planet at all levels, in many, well, not successfully, not entirely successfully, and this is the point, because if we don't all participate in our own creation of our alternate to this, then that is what will happen. But it's very interesting. I think the human psyche is a bit like a jack-in-the-box in some ways. You might try to push it in and it'll try to jump out at you, and I think we're probably kind of going through an accelerated evolutionary phase at the moment as a result of the pressure. This is what happens in evolutionary history, is that organisms tend to adapt into new forms when they're placed under great stress. This isn't strictly accepted by the Darwinian school of evolution, but that's shown quite a lot of cracks around the edges for quite a number of years, and while it's okay as a kind of basic starting point, it doesn't really account for things like change under stress and epigenetics, blah, blah. Organisms can learn, and these can affect how gene expression takes place, and we seem to be under a stress situation, which would undoubtedly cause faster evolution. Yeah, this trajectory. So this trajectory that we're on, this accelerated evolution that we're under, it's a very stressful experience in itself, and we're left with this existential choice of whether to try and retreat into a cave-like comfort zone, or whether to engage with what's going on. I always used to be quite a kind of technophobe back in the 90s. And then after that, I kind of realised that this was a wave that was going to be, quite important. But the wave that we're going through at a socio-cultural level at the moment, is kind of far more profound, and perhaps it's the follow-on from that. Obviously, the internet has a lot to do with the increase in political awareness that we're going through at the moment, and I think you can help your accelerated evolution by consciously participating in the water, in the energy that's flowing around you. Sorry, I was jumping ahead there, because I'd like to give an example, for instance, of one of the most profound experiences I've ever had in my life, which took place when I was about 21 or so. Looking at a stream and realising that the whirlpools and eddies that were travelling down the stream were fairly constant, and they retained coherent form, but of course the water was continually flowing down through them. So you had two systems going on there, completely coherent with each other. One was just the flow of the water down, but also the second one was the whirlpools and eddies and shape of the flow as it was coming down over the rocks. And the point of this insight is that we are like the whirlpools and eddies, the standing waves in the flow of energy. The standing waves. We are standing waves in the flow of energy. Now, if you can get your head around that concept of what a human conscious being is, more so because we have a greater degree of choice, apparently, than other organisms that we know of, you realise that you are not that energy that is passing through you. Nonetheless, it sustains you and it becomes part of you and it animates you as it is flowing through you. So this, you're looking at a stream, a river, an ocean where these things happen. Probably not the ocean, probably streams, yes. And you get these standing waves, these structures, and the energy flowing through it. So the energy flowing through it is far more than the being. The energy that flows through us is far more than we are. But nonetheless, we benefit from its passing through us. So this energy obviously comes from the greater universe around us, because where else could it come from? And so I think what this is all kind of leading up to is that our own influence in the world, our own ability to interact and create harmonious existence with the world can only take place by allowing this energy to flow through you, by interacting with the world, in other words, by allowing things to happen which are not necessarily in the comfort zone. I've just had this kind of insight over the last few days around about New Year, when I was doing a little tarot reading at New Year, and I thought, one of the big problems that I think we have in terms of making effective change in the universe is getting stuck in our morphic fields. Our morphic fields, if we just get stuck in a habitual morphic field and we never change it, and we expect everything to continue, you know, and be happy and everything like that, well, obviously it's not going to be. The universe is a dynamic system, and your morphic field has to evolve so that what you are bringing into your life is evolving too, because otherwise everything remains the same, which is obviously okay in the short term, kind of luring, but then it gets into the longer term, and it, you know, serious tectonic movement becomes not only you know, inevitable, but absolutely essential. So with this situation we have in the world today, which really there's a lot of really serious things going on, and not least of which we have a lot of banking fraud, corruption in high places, media misleading, a lot of behind the scenes stuff going on, but also much hope. Things like that new television channel, The People's Voice, quite challenging. I watched a YouTube video of Anne Widdecombe being interviewed by their chap, and I thought, that's really interesting. They've only been on the air for about a month, and the mainstream are sending their outliers. They're sending, okay, well, you know, we'll let Anne Widdecombe loose on them, and that's kind of an interesting one that was, because, you know, she's got a kind of interesting media profile, and, you know, kind of represents the you know, certain type of conservative person who wouldn't normally go anywhere near something like the People's Voice. So they're obviously testing it out, and I think it's an absolutely marvellous challenge to the system to have a it is well, I suppose it is actually kind of sorry, I kind of get starry-eyed when I think about this. When I was 12, the pop pirate radio stations were closed down off the coast of England and Scotland, and I was absolutely heartbroken, and I hadn't really kind of realised how far this mythology of free radio would take me through my life, because in a way that's what I'm doing here, and also you know, the new TV station is doing the same thing. You know, it's like information is such a powerful stream that it finds new and better ways, I mean, of expressing itself. You know, you look on the history of information, you know, first it was oral, then it was written down on stone, and only the people who saw the stones could see it, and then it was written on, you know, parchment or papyrus, and people carried them around, but there were only a few copies. And then, you know, Gutenberg and Caxton and all those people started coming on, printing them, suddenly people were spreading out, and then, you know, you had mass magazines, and, you know, photographic printing, then wireless, and all this as extensions of this, and where was I going with that? The expression of communication. It's always going forward like a river, finding new outlets, however much you try and dam it up. So in the 1960s, it was ships off the Essex coast broadcasting the Kinks and the Who and the Beatles and the Stones, and then now it's on the internet, and it's you know, the internet is kind of like the ultimate communication tool before you kind of, you know, go just completely psychic, because it's just out there for anybody, and obviously, you know, we're kind of going into this whole kind of internet wars and suppression and things like that. But I think that the stronger the truth field and expression gets, kind of the harder it is for them to corral, suppress, you know, and limit the information awareness growth. So, on the basis, as Frank Herbert says in June, that organic processes become stronger through use, this is exactly what we need to do. This is exactly what we are doing, is strengthening the voice. I mean, I think that's a marvellous title, The People's Voice. Strengthen that morphic field of truth and communication and freedom of communication, which has to be the kind of absolute bedrock, surely, of the kind of society that certainly, at least, I want to be part of creating. And so the more that you communicate, then the better, the easier it becomes, because you strengthen those pathways. This is such an important thing, and you participate in this. It strengthens the pathways. We become more accustomed to exercising our rights of communication, knowledge, information, and thereby assist in breaking down the old paradigm, which is all hidden behind doors and secret agreements. And you know, if you're still holding out against that, then, you know, good luck to you. You're probably watching the wrong channel. Well, I better start wrapping it up here. Another longer one than I anticipated doing, but I think I've kind of got there with what I was wanting to say. Participate, because participation makes you stronger, and participation is good for the world. You are part of that energy. That energy is part of you. It interpenetrates you, and if you don't participate in it, it will not participate in you, and you will shrink. And it might be scary, and it might be painful, and it might be uncomfortable, but we have to get out of our comfort zones and face what is going on. And what is going on out there is not nice a lot of the time, and it's no good saying, oh, I don't know what to do, because there'll be something in your life that you can do something about. That's where you start. You start right in front of you. You say, what is it that, you know, really bugs me? What am I really unhappy about? What do I want to change? What is it that is just so bugging me that I'm going to get off my arse and become a different person to deal with this thing in my life? I'm going to take responsibility for doing something about something that I may not have caused myself, but it's something I don't want in my life. And that's how I feel about the trolley bus. And this is the year we meet the public inquiry, and this is the year that we exercise our truth, and I have every confidence that we will win. because it has been a local participatory energy that has risen. And when I dropped out of the campaign last autumn because of ill health and my bad arm, and I couldn't use the computer, I was kind of worried, you know, how it would go, and I was just so heartened that when I dropped out, it seemed a bit thin, and you know, was I plugging a gap or something? And I could take my sort of sick time off it, as it were, because everybody got so, you know, it's like I wasn't necessary to the campaign any longer, because it was really coming on strongly of its own, and I could just see that this is like it's a collective community thought virus, positive thought virus. And I think this is what's going around the world at the moment. I really feel that people are turning onto this. They're saying, hey, just a minute, I'm not the only person who feels like this. Lots of other people feel exactly the same way as I do. These kind of things, fracking, trolleybus, whatever, we must not let them happen. They should not be happening. We don't want them to happen. We are going to do everything we can to stop these destructive, criminally minded people from destroying our environments, and the only way you can do that is by participating. And the amazing thing is that by doing so, you actually become stronger. You just take the first step, you just deal with the thing that comes to you. So that's the word for 2014, everybody. Participate, become responsible and politically active for whatever it is that is in front of you. It might be fracking, it might be Leeds trolleybus, it might be any one of a million small things, it might be all sorts of corruption that you've come across in parts of your life, and start thinking about what you can do to change these things, to not comply with the control system, to be yourself, to explore your own feelings and be in your own heart. So thank you everybody for watching. I'm hoping that I shall be trying to make these videos a more regular thing in the new year 2014. So thank you for watching, a happy new year, and good luck, Kesh. Good evening, thanks. Encouragement with these video blogs last year. You know who you are, and thank you very much for the support. Unfortunately, you haven't seen me since September, because I've had an injury on my shoulder and my arm, which has caused me a lot of pain using computers, and I'm a little bit improved on that department now, and so I thought the new year and the dear Professor's birthday would be a good opportunity to revive my efforts in this department. I was also quite inspired by the new year, various astrological readings, well, particularly, and I think in many ways this is kind of the most interesting side of it, because this what you see in the world at the moment seems to be that there is a much greater increase in questioning the system than we have known for a very long time, if ever at all. And there has been quite a continuous arc developing from early 2011 and to the present time. In fact, this obviously has quite, you know, roots that go back quite a number of years. And I remember round about the campaign against this trolleybus scheme that they want to impose on us, and what it strikes me as is that there are several levels going on in this. The two main ones that come to my mind are obviously the external challenges that we have to deal in facing people who want to destroy our environments and poison it and pollute it with roads and fracking and a lot of stuff that is really more damaging than anything else. But there's also an inner struggle associated with this. Hello everybody, good evening. I'm Cosmic Claire, and Happy New Year 2014. And may I also say to all those Old Norse buffs out there who know that it happens to be Professor Tolkien's birthday today, may I just raise a toast to the Professor before the evening is out. The Professor. Anyway, so that's out of the way. I must apologise to those very kind people who gave me so much. A chap called David Palmer gave a very inspiring one, pointing out the challenges we have at the moment. Not so much the individual challenges out there in the world, but the fact that it is such a challenging situation that we're in at the moment. The planet and its population seem to be beset from many sides by a series of human-invented problems. And as you probably know, if you've seen me before, you will know that I've been also involved with the